You know, Mississippi still ranks in the top 3 when it comes to people suffering from obesity. We're not number 1 anymore, which is a good thing, but we are still in the top 3 because, well, a lot of Mississippians, a lot of people just don't eat right, and they get to that stage where they need to do something about it as a major health issue. Well, today we're talking to Dr. Payne. He's one of the bariatric surgeons here at the South Mississippi Surgical Weight Loss Center here in Ocean Springs. How are you doing, sir?
Doing good.
Tell us, if you would, a little bit about yourself.
Well, local guy, born and raised right up the road, Van Cleve, Mississippi. After graduating there, went and did my undergraduate work at Millsaps College in Jackson. Stayed in Jackson for the next several years. Went to Mississippi Medical Center for both medical school and my residency and surgical training. Finished there in 2011 and moved back home, and I've been here with South Mississippi Surgeons since then, doing general and bariatric surgery.
Why choose that field?
Well, as you mentioned in your introduction, obesity is one of the largest epidemics that's facing
No pun intended.
Exactly, that's facing our country, and particularly our state. Typically, we have been at the top of that list. Thankfully, although number 3 is still very high, we have moved down some. But it's contributing to many of the comorbidities that we see with high blood pressure, diabetes, that lead further to heart disease and peripheral vascular disease, stroke. So combating obesity, cutting down on those problems, is going to create a healthier lifestyle, longer life for patients ultimately.
And a lot of times, with patients who are suffering from obesity, it's not simple as a fix as far as going on a diet, because they have a problem trying to control that eating to where they can't lose the weight. Talk about your comprehensive program here.
Yeah, so South Mississippi Surgical Weight Loss Center has been around since about the year 2000. It's a comprehensive program, the only one on the coast, and one of the few comprehensive programs in the state. We offer both medical or non-surgical and surgical weight loss options. The non-surgical weight loss options include both counseling, education, as well as meal replacement programs for patients that aren't necessarily a surgical candidate or don't qualify for surgery. There are very stringent guidelines on patients that do qualify for surgery.
Now, a lot of people think that they can't eat good and lose weight on a diet, which is not true. Because if you follow a program correctly, you can still eat good, but it's just, a lot of it is measuring the amount that you eat, eating the right portions, and also eating the right kind of foods. Exactly.
It's not quite as simple as a lot of people would like to think. Eat less, exercise more. The equation is a lot more complicated than that. And so there is a lot of re-education that goes on with weight loss, whether it be surgical or non-surgical options. Portion control is only a part of that. A lot of it's picking the correct foods, healthier foods, which we live here in South Mississippi. We all love our fried foods.
I knew you were going to say fried chicken.
They are not the healthiest foods for us to always choose. So it's a very complex problem, and it's not just as easy as do this, do that, and you're going to lose weight. And also by nature, a diet is temporary. People think they can go on it for a small amount of time and lose some weight. It just doesn't work that way. Your metabolism plays a large part of that as well. So unless you're doing something to change your metabolism also, you're going to gain that weight back, and typically you gain all that weight back plus a few extra pounds. And so over time, that weight just slowly creeps up, and that's typically when patients come to see us in pursuing a surgical option.
Well, let's talk about the surgical option. You recently performed the first fully robotic sleeve gastrectomy or gastrectomy, one of them big long words, in the state of Mississippi.
Yeah, so we have several surgical options. We have the sleeve gastrectomy. We also have gastric bypass, gastric banding, as well as a newer procedure called the V-block. Recently, we did, or I did perform the first fully robotic sleeve gastrectomy in the state. We've since performed several more. All those patients are doing well. I think there's several benefits to using the robotic system. I think before we get into that, we have to also talk a little bit about the robot system itself and a lot of misconceptions with it. One of the first questions we always get when talking about the robot is, oh, how do you just let the robot do all the work for you? Well, it doesn't quite work that way.
Not quite.
A more proper term would be robotic assisted or computer aided sleeve gastrectomy. It's not a machine doing all the work. It's merely me using the aid of computer to be more accurate and more precise in my movements. I'm in control at all times. It doesn't do anything that I don't tell it to do. Also with the robot and using that computer-aided equipment, typically with more traditional laparoscopic surgery, we have 2D, two-dimensional visualization, so we lose our depth perception when we're working inside the abdomen. Over the years, we've developed tips and tricks to help combat that, but with the robotic assistance, we also are able to have 3D visualization, so we get that depth perception back. So that's going to also provide greater accuracy and precision when performing these procedures.
Now, let's talk about learning more about bariatric surgery options, robotic bariatric surgery options. Coming here, I mean, you have workshops a couple of times a month. Every week you have webinars of people who live out of the area that you can't come here to see, that they can go on there and watch it. And we're in a classroom right now that you have these. Talk about those and what people can learn.
Several times a month here on site we have an information session. We talk about the various procedures and also non-surgical options that we have for weight loss. For patients that live real far out of our local area, we also have option of having one of those information sessions on the internet through a webinar. And that helps bring patients in from as far as several hundred miles away that can't just drive in for one of those information sessions.
Now the classroom here, of course, gives you a lot of information on it. I guess you can find out, especially if you are a candidate for it, because that's one of the main things. Are you a candidate for bariatric surgery? Because again, there's that line where you have to be a certain, I guess, size or whatever, and you have to also be careful of health issues that may not make you a good candidate.
Oh, correct. The typical guidelines for bariatric surgery is if you have a BMI greater than 35 with several comorbidities, you would qualify, or a BMI greater than 40 with no other medical problems. The ones we see the most are hypertension, high blood pressure, and diabetes. If you don't necessarily qualify for surgery, then that's also where we would shift into a non-surgical management with counseling, education, and potentially some meal replacements.
All right, Dr. Payne, thank you so much. We're about to run out of time here. If you'd like some more information, the number is on your screen. You can find out about the seminars that they have, the classes, or the webinars. Just give them a call. South Mississippi Surgical Weight Loss Centers here on the Gulf Coast.